Yes, and next Wednesday, this is the cutting edge. You know, there's a African print that everybody was wearing up to this year, yeah. You know, African print. That print of the motif of the Coptic church. A whole heap of people might not know that, but the print comes from the Coptic church. If you look at it, it's Coptic symbols on the print. You know, years ago, tourists used to wear it for the North Coast, but it became popular again over the years. Maybe 3-4 years now, it get popular again. It's in Africa, them call it the Angelina cloth. Angelina, that's what them call it, Angelina. But it is really some print of the church, the Coptic church. Very popular, especially right now. You see a whole heap of man have them on a shirt. You can't take this fashion and style thing, believe you me. The next African tune I'm going to play, at Sly me I play it for. Sly, you know my bridge, a long time I don't hear from you, but we're going to play the next tune for Sly. This is the cutting edge. Given what is happening in Libya, we have to play some clips from them time there, leading up to what is going on right now in Libya, because everything have its genesis somewhere. And the genesis of that slavery thing that you see going on in Libya, about direct relationship with Hillary Clinton and Obama. A whole heap of Obama fanatics who believe him is a returned Messiah don't want to hear say him is responsible for some serious atrocities that take place in our earth in him tenure as president. We are talking about places like in Afghanistan, in Yemen, them drone strike. You know, them say the amount of the drone strike where Obama unleashed on the people them is more than where the Bush, where a whole heap of people never like Bush, is more than where Bush though. You know, the amount of children and women who die in Afghanistan and Yemen because of those drone strikes under the watch of Obama and Hillary Clinton. Yet still, the half has never been told. Yeah, the half has never been told.
The U.S. President Barack Obama says it's his biggest mistake in office. He says he failed to plan better for the aftermath of military action in Libya. CCTV's Jim Spellman joins us live from the newsroom with more on his comments. Jim.
Yeah, Elaine, Libya has descended steadily into chaos since coalition forces attacked the Gaddafi-led Libyan government back in 2011. Obama says poor planning by the U.S. contributed to the mess in Libya.
Asked on U.S. TV program Fox News Sunday what his biggest mistake in office has been, U.S. President Barack Obama said this.
Probably failing to plan for the day after what I think was the right thing to do in intervening in Libya.
In 2011, an international coalition that included the U.S., France, and Great Britain took military action in Libya. Later that year, Muammar Gaddafi was ousted from power and killed.
You had the Gaddafi regime massing forces prepared to carry out an act of violence against a substantial and defenseless population. And the international community, led by the United States, responded to prevent a good portion of that violence. And that obviously was a good thing.
But Libya soon descended into chaos. Rival governments formed and jockeyed for power.
Find a way to sell it, and that would generate money to allow them to even form a quasi-state of the sort we see in Syria and Iraq.
The international community has struggled to bring order to the troubled country, even as Obama seems to admit the U.S. was at fault for poor planning in Libya. His administration seems more than willing to share the blame.
The rest of the international community did not have time and did not succeed in following through with a plan to compensate for the vacuum that was left behind.
Referring to the international community there, in the past, Obama has been critical of the UK's David Cameron, Francois Hollande of France for their part in not planning for a more stable Libya. Elaine?
And Jim, how has what happened in Libya altered U.S. foreign policy?
Yeah, a lot of people say you're seeing the impact of lessons learned in Libya in the U.S. foreign policy in Syria. The White House says mistakes made in Libya have made Obama much more reluctant to take on so-called regime change without a clear path of what comes next, Elaine.
All right, Jim Spellman in our newsroom.
Yes, so you see, we're taking you back to the genesis of what is taking place in Libya now and who is the cause of that. And you hear it from the president that the vacuum that was left after them assassinate and murder Gaddafi, they never put nothing in place to really deal with what would come next. And what would come next was a failed state. The influx of the ISIL terrorists them and the influx of people who just want some part of power upon them own militias rise up in Libya. So we're taking you back, way back.
Because as soon as you say you're going to change over from the dollar to something else, you're going to be targeted. There were two conferences on this, one in 96 and another one in the year 2000, called the World Mataba Conference, organized by Gaddafi. And everybody was interested. I think most countries in Africa were keen.
Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold. The UK has double that, but 10 times the population.
If Gaddafi had an intent to try to reprice his oil or whatever else the country was selling in the global markets and accept something else as a currency, or maybe launch a gold dinar currency, any move such as that would certainly not be welcomed by the power elite today who are responsible for controlling the world's central banks. So yes, that would certainly be something that would cause his immediate dismissal and the need for other reasons to be brought forth for removing him from power.
It's happened before. In 2000, Saddam Hussein announced Iraqi oil would be traded in euros, not dollars. Sanctions and an invasion followed.
African resistance to AFRICOM was spearheaded by a figure who had emerged as a major economic and political force on the continent and had been a thorn in the side of the West for decades.
From the beginning of his political career as a leader, Muammar Gaddafi was opposed to a foreign military presence in Africa. One of the first things he did after coming to power in 1969 was to expel the British and US military bases in Libya itself. And Gaddafi had, considerable political support across the continent for his position. Nelson Mandela's view was almost identical to Gaddafi's, that there would be no African forces commanded by foreign military officials, and there would be no foreign militaries occupying any part of Africa or operating within Africa.
Gaddafi had been playing a complex game with the West for a long time. President Ronald Reagan had labeled him the mad dog of the Middle East and had tried to assassinate him in 1986 by bombing his palace. The Libyan leader's independence and influence flowed from the vast petroleum reserves, the largest in Africa, which he had nationalized when he took power.
Well, starting in the 1990s, Muammar Gaddafi became a kind of luminary, a leading voice, certainly one of the loudest voices, for a maximum vision of African integration. He was seen across Africa as being the successor of Kwame Nkrumah in terms of his vision of African unity. And it wasn't just a matter of nice-sounding words. Gaddafi was eager to not only accelerate the process of African integration, but of bankrolling the process.
The money from Libyan oil allowed Gaddafi to underwrite ambitious projects. $300 million for the first Pan-African satellite Rascom. $30 billion in the largest irrigation system in the world that draws on the vast reserves of fresh water under the Sahara to turn tens of thousands of hectares of Libyan desert into farmland. Gaddafi demonstrated that Africa could develop without depending on the Western banking system or the International Monetary Fund.
Libya, to the tune of tens of billions of dollars in each case, was capitalizing a number of new African economic institutions, the African Development Bank, the African Monetary Fund. Africa would then develop its own solutions and develop its own lending programs to address its own problems. So Africa was, in Gaddafi's view, and with Gaddafi's leadership, increasingly becoming something of a bloc, rather than a series of disparate individual nations that could be dealt with one-on-one and set against each other.
When Gaddafi was elected chairman of the African Union in 2009, U.S. officials were concerned. In an embassy cable revealed by WikiLeaks, they noted that Libya will seek to use al-Gaddafi's chairmanship to aggrandize him and promote his United States of Africa proposal. U.S. multinationals were also unhappy with the Libyan leader, especially his decision to cancel a $1 billion deal with the Bechtel Corporation, the largest engineering company in the United States with powerful connections in Washington. The fact that an operator with Bechtel's savvy and deep pockets was ultimately unable to secure its contract serves as a cautionary tale for the many U.S. and Western companies seeking to enter Libya's booming market, and for other U.S. companies considering major investment projects here. Gaddafi also antagonized France. After being courted by President Nicolas Sarkozy, the Libyan leader canceled major arms deals.
On oublie à quel point Sarkozy avait déroulé le tapis rouge à colonel Kadhafi en décembre 2007 et le colonel Kadhafi en échange lui avait promis 14 milliards de dollars de contrats. Il y avait une shopping list absolument incroyable. Finalement, Kadhafi a ridiculisé Nicolas Sarkozy parce qu'il n'y a rien eu du tout ou très très peu de choses par rapport à ce qui avait été promis.
In March 2011, as the Arab Spring spread through North Africa, France and the United States decided to act. The United Nations Security Council gave its approval. Protecting human rights provided the justification.
Nos forces aériennes s'opposeront à toute agression des avions du colonel Kadhafi contre la population de Benghazi.
We hit Gaddafi's troops in neighboring Ajabiyah, allowing the opposition to drive them out. We hit Gaddafi's air defenses.
This was AFRICOM's first war, and its commander-in-chief was the first African-American president.
In the words of the Obama administration, the U.S. position in the war against Libya was that of leading from behind. And what is really interesting is, of course, the fact that the war was opened and directed first by AFRICOM, and then the mission was taken over by NATO. In other words, the people running the show, NATO, are themselves being run by the United States, which is formally in command of NATO. Not only that, in one of his speeches, Obama, after the bombing campaign had ceased and was praising the efforts of allies in Libya, revealed that even a number of French bombing missions were in fact piloted by American pilots. The intervention of Libya is also a way of sending a message to other African nation states that should they pursue a course of such radical defiance, radical independence, such a nationalist and anti-imperialist course, that there could be ultimate consequences that are no longer hypothetical. It stands as a clear signal to African nation states that these are the boundaries in which they are to operate, boundaries that have been set by U.S. military operations. Gaddafi is gone, so a major obstacle in the way of American military penetration of Africa has in fact been removed.
We came, we saw, he died.
Now Libya is a failed state. All the refugees fleeing out of Syria, fleeing out of Libya, fleeing out of North Africa is because of policies of the government of the United States of America and her specifically. Now, when they release all those emails that they haven't released yet.
Yes. So we're kind of going back in time to show you where it started, this atrocity that is taking place in Libya right now, of its genesis right there in America, and what the policy of America was against Gaddafi. You know, when we listen to the Western press, we easily get brainwashed into believing, say, all the African leader them is some evil people. Anybody where is not with America is supposed to be evil. And last week we mentioned a whole heap of them. You know, starting right down in our like corner with Castro. I grew up for believe that Castro is the devil. I grew up for feel say Gaddafi is some evil person. I mean, like really evil. Idi Amin. I mean, we grew up for years say Idi Amin all eat people. I tell you. So when we hear about African leaders, when them start to demonize these leaders, you know, you have intellectual, intelligent people, you know, you can't tell them nothing. Nothing at all about Mugabe. Nothing at all about Idi Amin. Nothing at all about Gaddafi. When them start to tell you about what Gaddafi, this is what Gaddafi does, yet still, Gaddafi country. It's a country where people don't pay a light bill. It's a country where, I mean, have the most PhD. I mean, the things them where Gaddafi do, would have never heard it if we never did that dig deep and that dig deep. And now we say, listen to them news here. Them news here, I get them on none of the big radio stations them in Jamaica because them are, for sure, them are follow the trend. Them are follow where CNN and where BBC tell you about African leaders continuously. It's a wicked set of people, them wicked man. When them ready for paint Africa. You know, you that thing say Europe are heaven and Africa hell with all those vicious leaders. Vicious leaders. And most of the civil war where we see take place in Africa, you know. It's them coming out of Africa, come disturb the place. The French especially. The French people especially coming out of the place, come turn it round and twist it round and start a whole heap of things inside of the country them. And then ease back like one of them cause it. And watch Africans that kill Africans. Just like how the people them out just so we gobble and sup up the newscast them and then start to feel say, boy, right now, what a terrible place that is. Terrible, terrible. They cannot be trusted. They cannot be trusted. Especially the news media them cannot be trusted. The mainstream new media cannot be trusted.
Welcome back to the Real News Network. I'm Paul Jay in Baltimore. March 19th will be the third anniversary of the NATO intervention into Libya. Looking back, what were NATO's objectives? What Libya did they hope to find after the overthrow of Gaddafi? And what, in fact, is today's Libya? Now joining us from Syracuse University is Professor Horace Campbell. He teaches African American studies there and political science. He's written extensively on African American politics, and his new book is called Global NATO and the Catastrophic Failure in Libya. Thank you very much for joining us, Horace.
Thank you for inviting me to discuss the failures of the U.S. foreign policy in Africa and the failure of NATO in Africa.
So it was only a day or two ago, Navy SEAL sailors boarded a Libyan, North Korean boat carrying oil coming from a rebel-held oil port in Libya. This was, I guess, to send a message that the central government, so-called, of what is recognized by the United States, and nobody else should be selling oil. But it's a reflection of what chaos there is in Libya. Give us a sense now of what's going on in Libya, and then we'll kind of dig further back into why this all came about.
This chaos in Libya was deliberate. It was deliberate because Libya was a stable African society in North Africa, where the leader of Libya wanted to use the resources of Libya for the reconstruction of Africa. The water resources, the oil resources, the financial resources, and the intelligence of the Libyan people. NATO intervened in spite of the differences between different sections of NATO, between France and the United States, between France and Germany, and the competition between Italy and France. Despite these differences, they came together after France precipitated this massive invasion to destroy Libyan society in 2011. But that destruction has only created a greater problem for Western capitalist forces in Africa.
I don't quite understand why the West simply wanted to destroy Libyan society. Gaddafi's regime was playing footsie with the IMF, with the World Bank. His sons were knocking the gavel at the stock exchange. In fact, one of his sons was visiting American military manufacturers, negotiating arms deals just before the invasion. They were doing oil and gas deals. There's reports from the World Bank praising his reforms and privatization of the Libyan banking system. I mean, he cooperated with Bush Cheney in many ways. He had made a big reconciliation with the Americans. I don't understand on the face of it why they wanted to overthrow him. Obviously they did, but I don't think that explains it.
That is all very true. But you're missing one factor. That every political leader seeks political legitimacy. And in the case of Libya, the legitimacy of the leader had come from his presenting himself as someone who is part of the African Union and wanted to build an African monetary fund, an African central bank, and an African common currency. And that was a danger to not only the euro, because Sarkozy said, we're going to fight to save the euro, but it represented a threat to the dollar. Moreover, the Libyan leadership had moved to take over the Arab Banking Corporation in Bahrain. And the Libyan leadership had over $200 billion in foreign reserves. So yes, you're correct. They were playing footsie with the West, but that same leadership was also capable of nationalist pressures inside of Libya and inside of Africa, so they could have nationalized oil companies in the midst of this global capitalist crisis. And the West did not want any surprises where Libya would want to call on Africans to turn away from the dollar as a reserve currency and to use African resources such as gold as a new currency for all of Africa.
But Horace, what evidence is there that they were really concerned about this? I know Gaddafi talked about it, but he himself was up to the eyeballs in the World Bank. And, rhetoric is one thing, but the reality of the Libyan economy, it was becoming totally assimilated into global capitalism. It seems to me more that there was a problem is that he was also playing footsie with the Russians. And there was more that he was caught in these inter-imperialist contradictions. I mean, you can't tell me Libya had the power to change the currency of Africa.
They did, because Libya have $200 billion in reserves. And if Libya got 5 or 6 other African countries with massive reserves to create a common currency for Africa, which is one of the mandates of the African Union that's a threat to Western Europe and North America. Moreover, the Chinese had become the dominant force in infrastructure development within Libya. There were over 36,000 Chinese involved in railway, road, water, agricultural, and other forms. So there's no question that Libya had the financial wherewithal to determine their own independence. And I think one of the things that the media is missing, even those who call themselves the left, is the role that the Goldman Sachs and their dalliance trying to use the resources of Libya to shore up the derivatives market, and the fact that they were so involved in Libya prior to the intervention.
Yeah, well, we'll talk a bit about that. Why was Gaddafi so involved with Goldman Sachs?
Well, that is the point. The point was that Gaddafi wanted to please the Western forces. Gaddafi's son had studied in the London School of Economics. Gaddafi had been open to talking to this group from Boston that was going there, and all of these forces were trying to ingratiate themselves with Gaddafi so that Gaddafi would completely be in the pockets of the West. But he was unpredictable. And that was the problem between them and Gaddafi.
Yeah, I agree with that part. He was unpredictable, but he was very much playing ball. He was very close to the new rising Rothschild. He was playing ball with the commodity brokers. I mean, he's using the Libyan Sovereign Wealth Fund like a private investment thing, just to really playing with every speculator in Europe and America. But I agree with you. He was unpredictable, and he was playing ball too much with the Chinese and with the Russians, and he wasn't becoming a reliable ally in Northern Africa. That, I think, that much is for sure. But there was a lot of differences in the West about what should be done and what the objectives were.
The differences in the West stems from the fact that there's a rivalry between the European Union and the United States over the reserve currency. The entire Western world is in the midst of a global capitalist crisis since 2007, 2008, and it's imperative that they use the military to keep forces in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Europe in line behind the dollar as the currency of world trade. So in the case of Libya, Libya had the wherewithal to be playing around with the Europeans, playing around with the Chinese, and playing around with the United States of America.
But Horace, the Chinese have, first of all, they own several trillion US dollars, and I think they've made it very clear, for at least for this historical period, they are not going to challenge the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency. Far from it. They rely on the Americans to manage this whole global system.
They rely on the United States to manage the global system, but no country in the world is happy with the United States devaluing the dollar by printing dollars, what they call quantitative easing.
Yeah, this is true.
$65 billion every month. If the United States of America is putting $65 billion every month on the world market, nobody wants to keep their reserves in dollars. So the Chinese, the Brazilians, everybody's looking for the exit from the dollar, because the capitalist crisis means that the dollar is worthless. Because if anyone can have a printing press to print dollars, then other currencies are worthless.
Okay, but why is everybody buying American dollars? I mean, they're getting people to buy T-bills with practically 0% interest.
Because the American military makes the American dollar a force in world politics. Yeah. What backs up the American dollar today is not gold, but the U.S. military.
Yeah, but I agree with that. But all these other governments and elites rely on that.
The elites in Latin America and Africa are seeking ways to exit this. In Latin America, Venezuela, Cuba, Ecuador, and all these countries are seeking an exit from the dollar. They're trying to create a common currency in Latin America. In the ASEAN countries, they've created alternatives in Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. They've created alternatives. The reality for the world is we're living in a dangerous moment because of this capitalist crisis, where the United States military is shoring up the printing of dollars, and this condition in the world where the United States have unlimited access to the resources of the world.
And you think this is what triggered the Libyan intervention?
It is one of the factors in the Libyan intervention. Initially, the United States government was hesitant because this was a plot by the French to go into Libya. And at the outset, the Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, and Mullins said before Congress, do you have evidence that Libya was about to destroy their people? And the military in the United States, the United States Africa Command, was initially opposed to going into Libya. But the pressures of Goldman Sachs, along with those people called the humanitarian hawks, Samantha Powers, Susan Rice, and Hillary Clinton, pushed through the American public and the media to go along with France and Britain for the destruction of Libya in 2011. And the people of Africa are still living with this destruction, where over 50,000 people in Africa have been killed, 40,000 people, black skin from Tawerga, have been thrown out of where they live. And so we have to see that initially the United States military was opposed, but later on the media, along with Clinton, Rice, and Powers, were able to build up the psychological warfare and propaganda within this society against the United States people to portray Gaddafi as this terrible leader, when, as you said, he was in league with the Western banking and financial institutions.
This is the Cutting Edge. Time for Pat Clark.
Welcome to Jamaican Roots and Culture. I'm Pat Clark. We hear a lot of talk about the Christmas spirit. In Jamaica, there's another kind of spirit that is used extensively at this time of the year. Although the exact origin of the word rum is not known, it is commonly believed to come from the English word rumbullion, which means great pandemonium. It is important to note that the Latin for sugar is saccharum, another possibility for the word's origin. For a time, the drink was also known as Kill Devil, and it was used to trade with the young American colonies for salted fish, pork, beef, timber, and livestock. As processing techniques improved, rum became more palatable and popular. Barbados's Mount Gay Distilleries Limited claims the title of the world's oldest rum producer, citing processing equipment on the site of their present offices that dates back to 1703. Appleton, Jamaica, dating back to 1749, is therefore the second oldest. In 1893, close to 90% of the 31,555 acres under sugarcane cultivation in Jamaica belonged to sugar estates that operated their own mills and distilleries. At the time, there were some 148 distilleries located throughout Jamaica. By 1948, there were only 25. Since then, the number of distilleries has dropped even further to 5. Yet with improvements in technology, the quantity of rum produced has grown. Jamaica currently produces the widest varieties of rum in the world. In fact, the island has the capacity to produce up to 50 million liters of rum annually. Jamaican rums are presently sold in over 70 countries around the world. The Jamaican Excise Duty Law of 1941 defines rum as spirits distilled solely from sugarcane juice, sugarcane molasses, or the refuse of the sugarcane at a strength not exceeding 150% proof spirit. To make rum, molasses, the thick syrup resulting from sugarcane juice crystallized by boiling, is allowed to ferment. The resultant wash has approximately 6% alcohol, which after distillation produces rum as a sharp-tasting, clear, colorless liquid with about 80% alcohol. White rum, popular on the local market, is basically this product diluted to 40% alcohol. Golden rums come from the aging of the clear liquid in oaken casks and the absorption of the color from the oak. The darker, heavier Jamaican rums come from combinations of molasses and skimmings from the sugar boiling vats stored in oaken casks. The fermentation of other substances in the molasses can enhance a rum's flavor and aroma. Jamaican and other full-bodied rums are matured in large casks called puncheons and distilled between 140 degrees and 160 degrees proof in pot stills, a practice that dates back to the 17th century. Today, the more modern light column stills are used. Full-bodied rums rely on natural or what is called wild fermentation rather than the cultured yeast inoculation used in light-bodied rums. The rum industry's development can be traced back to 1825 when a wheelwright living in St. Anne opened a tavern in a residential area of the bustling seaport and commercial center of Kingston. His name was John Ray. Aware that Kingston was home to one of the most renowned theaters in the world, the Theatre Royal, which since the 1770s had played host to countless English touring companies who made their first calls in Kingston en route to Boston and New York, Ray built his tavern right next door. It was appropriately called the Shakespeare Tavern. The area known then and now as Parade was a popular meeting place for locals. The parish church and a large market were also nearby. By 1860, Ray had become a successful rum merchant and had brought his 22-year-old nephew, Charles James Ward, into the business. By 1862, he had made Ward his partner, and the business was known from then on as J. Ray and Nephew. Soon after, Ray retired, and in 1870, when he died, Ward assumed full control of the business, headquartered at the Shakespearean Tavern. Charles James Ward was a gifted entrepreneur, and his tenure marked a period of dynamic growth for J. Ray and Nephew. Ward transformed his heritage, a tavern and liquor dealing concern, into one of Jamaica's largest commercial enterprises that enjoyed local and international acclaim. And now, to end Jamaican roots and culture, here's our famous quotation from the black diaspora. The black man who wants to turn his race white is as miserable as he who preaches hatred for the whites. The words of Franz Fanon. For Jamaican roots and culture, I'm Pat Clark.
Now you know. And just to add something here, you know that the sugar cane, that grass, where Europeans was addicted to rum and sugar, caused millions of our ancestors to lay in the earth today, dead, because of the loss of sugar and rum by Europeans. Yeah, the time is 11:30. This is the cutting edge, and RFM, we're there with you. Yes. Man, if some part of you now move, you know, say you're dead and you need to go to the morgue. You understand, eh? Yes, and it look like you need to go to the morgue. All the women them who lay down beside them husband and go like his muta baruch in the bed with them, believe you me, cutting edge. When I meet some woman at Chronic show the other night, them say, boy, I muta, I tell you the truth. My husband have to go lay down in the couch at night time, upon Wednesday night time, you know, because me can't take the botheration when him bother me and me want to listen to you. Yes, a serious thing. Very serious thing. So you know, we have played this one for all of the women them who will meet and say, Muta, trust me, Wednesday night time, a year time. Here goes.
The Zambian government, Bishop, sold the copper mines in northern Zambia to an outside consortium for $25 million. The copper mines for $25 million because they couldn't manage to keep them. The company that came in and took over the Zambian copper mines in 3 months made a profit of $75 million. They did not pay the Zambian government up front in cash for the mines. They were going to pay them over a period of time. Here we have this company that has an understanding of how things work, raised the money at the government's expense, took money that the company should have, the government should have been making, and gave it back to the government and said, we paid our debt in full, and give them now 0.006% of the proceeds of copper mining. When right outside the door there's people in poverty, people in not eating, people ignorant, people dying, high levels of AIDS, and what's the deal? Churches are full, people are praising God, Africans pray all night. Prayer is not in the success equation. Prayer is in the revelation equation. Decision making is in the success equation. You have to make a decision and be sound. We have to be disciplined and make sure we go and get what God has called us to get. You can be full of the Holy Ghost, but you can still be ignorant. But as for me and my house, I will get understanding. I will get understanding. I will get understanding. It's time now for us to rise up and be counted. This year, the country of Ghana turns 50. Ghana was born the same year we were born, in 1957. Ghana and South Korea had their independence dates on the same day, the same year. But look where South Korea is. South Korea is by nature not a Christian nation. South Korea by nature are Buddhists. China, which is the next large world economy, they have stated that in the next 10 years, 20% of the Chinese people will be multimillionaires. That means almost 450 million Chinese will be millionaires. They are not Christians, they are Buddhists. The Japanese are Shintoists. Those in Indonesia and Malaysia are Muslims. It's not about praising God and hallelujah and a great thank you, Jesus. It's about possessing an understanding as to how things work.
Okay. All right. This is the Cutting Edge on IRFM. We have on the line I have El. I have
Yeah, give thanks, Peter. Great things, you know.
Man, give thanks, man. How you doing?
I give thanks, you know. Struggling, but still have strength, have life. I give thanks, you know.
Yeah, well, I did a hold some of the ball, but come for them, so I don't know.
Eh?
I did a hold some of the ball them for you. I tell me say that come for them, but you never come at all.
No, the youth now and the in and out and it's so much work.
Yeah.
With the event, you know.
Yeah.
I give more time to come in a town. I want to spend certain amount of time on the event, you know.
Yeah, so we are going now. I mean, we hear some as a run and thing. Or the momentum.
Well, I give thanks for what it is, you know. Getting good feedback and, responses from people. So, we just look and hope that it come out to be, well, we really love it to be in terms of attendance, which I envisage it will. And in terms of the contents of the event now, we hope that we can put something together where can really be informative to people and can be beneficial, especially when it comes to knowing what going on in this cannabis and this ganja fields internationally. The standard, how people need to grow, what people need to grow for market and everything,
Yeah.
Hope that the event can be really informative.
I don't know if I talked to you about this already, but I noticed say the minister of health, Tufton there. It's and him have a brethren where I can't remember the man's name, It seems as if them really
Della here.
Eh?
Della here.
I try to remember his name. They're like
Chief
very
Medical
anti-ganja. But Tufton look like him kind of slow up the process because him not in, if it was him alone, it wouldn't be decriminalized. What you say about that?
Well, in negative views, like, well, any man who knows that I knows that I is an anti-ganja man.
Yeah.
Right? Anti-ganja man. And at the same time, because remember that the CDA board has to go address them in a cabinet one at a time, and I read a part of who go on. It just feels stupidness stuff than that talk. And when I listen and hear them, man, in a dinner time and now, I go, for example, last year, you know, saying that since the decriminalization the year before, you know, which would have last year, you know, would have make 1 year, that there would have rise in, you know, in mad people technically on the road by 60%.
Yeah.
So we make them know and we make better, you know, to look here. Me challenge them, you know, I don't like to see the statistics to prove them thing there. At that time now, when they're able to come out now, who is a part of the NCBA, the National Council on Drug Abuse, and sure say that here don't really have no statistics to prove them thing there. But it's just that sometimes you wonder if these people are not being paid by certain type of people to fight against her in order for certain things to strive.
And that me I wonder too, because all the man them have all hands are run against ganja. You know, be like the government decriminalize ganja and the government run against ganja. You know, is that terrible? Is that weird?
Well, at the same time, I remember say it's not this government.
No, but the government.
And son, it's not this government that really decriminalize or carry through the law.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the fact that they never come revoke, right, what was established by the previous administration, and then still maintain a CLA board, a cannabis licensing authority board, then it means they are in approval of what had taken place, and as such is supporting and so on and so on.
Yeah, but when them do it's almost like them are try miss the boat for say, well, see there, you know. The boat are run fast, you know, and it look like them are try miss it.
Well, my brother says like you have a paddle canoe and try catch a steamship.
Yeah.
See? Because it's a one know what go on international in motor. Especially where ganja is concerned, where money, economic potential is concerned. We see some of them man go all of Portugal go establish multi-million, multi-billion dollar industry. Ganja is big something. But when you look at the US and the amount of states.
It now, Canada?
Yeah, next year, July, you know. Yeah. Canada got full-fledged where legalization is concerned, recreationally, medically, you know. See, the type of market we're out there. Then it come like a man with a plant a ton of cherry tree, but I tell you, said, look here, you must plant one. I don't want to see you plant one, but I said, time you're going to see him back of the yard. Because some of these same government people in Muta, I know hear certain people attack this and part of that. None of them want to be a part of this ganja industry, you know. But some of them very hypocritical when it comes to certain things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know from a long time, say, when man go to prison for herb and Rasta get beaten for herb. None of them politicians are going to smuggle it.
Yeah, of course.
You understand me?
But they make them first money from.
Yeah.
Them first money come from ganja.
So, too much hypocrisy out there, you know, as people, we need to identify the hypocrisy and it's out there and shit. Make them know so we're not blind. We're not deaf and we're not idiots, you know what I mean?
All right, so remind the people that we're going to go on here so now, next week. And next week, right? Next week.
Yeah, Muta give thanks. Next week, 15th to the 17th, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and the annual Rastafari Root Fest. What is planned basically is the usual seminar, the educational part of it, where, you know, people come and this year we have some good people. We always have good people, but this year we have people like Anthony Hall, who is a neurosurgeon from Florida, a Rastaman. We have a youth, a next dreadlock youth from Oakland, from Berkeley, California, who work with people named Reggie Gardiner, J-U-D-I, you know, anybody can look him up. We have people from, like, Yasmin Ran, you know, Nesson from Harvard, as usual, will be here. So we have a good, Oxford University will teach you and we do workshop from seed to field. You know, basically in terms of business, law, medicine. This is different aspect. You know, a ganja where as it exists out there, how people are benefiting from it different way. Not only medically but monetarily, and what the law is for the international scene. So, you know, we hope it. We know it will be educational. You know, informative where people can come and learn a lot. Also, where the entertainment part of it is concerned, you know, we have people like Admiral Tibet, Diamond, Paddy Diamond, we have Bushman, we have Jamaican, we have Natisha Stream, and they're good to know that data, but
the men are together this week, Sunday, down at Mobile.
Yes, Natisha, she have a strong voice last time.
Sing, man.
You know, she did. And so she will be there. You know, they Saturday night. We have Rock Top Band. We have Lila Ike. We have Mishimi from out of Canada. We have Ibamar, Kabaka Pyramid, Capleton. The Sunday now, Munta, we're dedicating it to Peace Atash, being who in is and why he needs to stand up for her and the type of persecution. The thing them when you for singing and music, they hear medicine come, medical people are coming dance and thing, you know. So we have in Grandson, J. Tash, who will be one of our key performers. We have in that and I the Tash, who will be coming down along with other members of the family.
Someone tell you, ask if the food them done, the boot them done, how much to them?
No, and we give thanks you bring it up because in case we have touched on it because we want people to know that there's a cut-off point, you know, like by Monday, Tuesday we cut off, you know, we stop the selling a board because we don't want one-on-one coming there like on the third and the Friday, so them want board and so on. So in terms of the board, we have 3 board prices. We have, for example, who are going to deal with herb ganja and, you know, ganja byproduct is 60,000. Who are going to deal with food and juice is 40,000. Who are going to deal with craft is 30,000.
For the 3 days?
3 days, yeah.
30,000,
you know what I mean?
40,000 and 60,000.
Yes, 60, 50 and 30, you know. And someone have a small amount of craft on a tabletop and can get that trophy at 10 grand. But basically in terms of board, that's where the board is 30, 40 and 60, you know.
Suppose you bring your 1 tent.
Eh?
Suppose you bring your 1 tent.
No, we're not to end off the bringing a tent to put on the field because we want the place to look uniform and way.
Okay.
You know, we don't want it to look, let them say, you know, all the time people say chaka, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I want to bring them tent now, if stay upon the beach, now that's a different thing, you know, because we still have camping available and bathroom facilities, shower and things right, so, you know. So, but in terms of buying a board now, you know, we rent the board and we rent the tent and we rent them back, you know. So the past two is very nice to look, you know.
All right, well, we'll be there, so next week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Again.
Yeah, man. So next week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And like I said, the Sunday evening in particular, we really want one very serious evening, like from a Rastafari ganja point of view. You know what I mean? When we leave Root Fest, I'd love to say and I leave with a plan of action in terms of not just ganja, but issues we are secondized years upon years we are taught that we are centralized, we are organized, we are. But leaving Root Fest, Muta, I'd love to see we have a plan of action from a Rastafari grassroots people's point of view when it comes to herb and when it comes to the other injustices. You know, the violation of people, right? The recognition of indigenous people, right? You know, serious something coming out of these seminars and discussions. We want to leave Roots Fest.
We have to move.
With something, you know?
Yeah. Irie.
No, man. Good thanks, you know?
Yeah,
no, man.
Yes. Rastafari Roots Festival coming up soon. Yes. To this. Listen to this.
What's really eye-opening here is you watch your TV, but with this hack, your TV can watch you. Show us how that works.
So one of the things that we were able to do with the Smart TV platform was actually abuse the browser to the extent that we could actually gain access to the camera that's built into the TV.
Right.
And so what we can prove here is that with a little bit of extra code, we can turn the camera on in your browser.
Wow.
And while this is evident to you right here because we've designed it that way, this is something that we can do invisibly and actually have the camera running behind the web page that you're looking at.
So what this means is I could be sitting here watching TV from my bedroom, and you could be anywhere in the world looking at this image of me watching.
Yep, I could be sitting on a laptop in a cafe in Paris, and as long as I have a network connection, I'd be able to get into your TV and access the camera.
The kind of scary things about it is that it doesn't actually give any indication that the camera's on, and there is no little LED that shows up when the camera's on. So it could actually be watching you and you never even know.
What is a smart TV, and why is it a playground essentially for hackers?
Right, it's a computer. So instead of just being, a tube and some other electronics, now it has a web browser and it has, a lot of devices are running Linux.
But the real danger is when people start using smart TVs for things like online banking, we can take a popular bank address and translate that into a different IP address to a site that directs to a site that we control. So it may look like your bank's login, but you're actually entering a username and password that goes to us instead of your bank.
In a statement to CNN Money, Samsung says it takes consumer privacy very seriously. The camera can be turned into the bezel of the TV so that the lens is covered or disabled by pushing the camera inside the bezel. The TV owner can also unplug the TV from the home network when the smart TV features are not in use. As an added precaution, we also recommend that customers use encrypted wireless access points when using connected devices.
For those of us who are a little freaked out and maybe don't trust all these updates, what's the easiest fix?
So one of the things that you could do with the smart TV, which you can also do with your laptops, is just cover up the camera. Put a little Post-it note over it, a piece of tape, and next time that you want to Skype with your family, just take it off.
Yes, very interesting. A TV I watch you. You think it's joke? I laugh, but it's not a joke. Yes, Ian.
Hello, Mota.
Yeah, blessed.
Evening.
Yeah, man, I hear you.
First time on the program.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Just like to commend you on the, I really like to listen to Stepping Razor. I really listen to Cutting Edge. But anyways, I wanted to ask you a question. Your name, Muta, your name, Muta, where is it originally from?
Muta Baruka, Rwanda.
Yeah. Okay, you and I have a little similarity then.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, man, my mother is a Rwandan.
Your mother is a what?
She's a Rwanda. She's from Rwanda. She was born in Rwanda.
Okay.
Yeah, man. She was born in Rwanda, but she migrated to Tanzania.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm a African Jamaican. I'm a Tanzanian by birth.
Okay. You're born in Tanzania?
Pardon me?
You're born in Tanzania?
Yeah, man. I'm a Tanzanian, but I migrated to Jamaica with my father.
When you're a little picnic?
Yeah, from a tender age.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
So your mother come from Rwanda?
Yeah?
Your mother come from Rwanda?
Yeah, but she migrated to Tanzania.
Tanzania, okay.
Yeah. I was listening to your program last week on Cutting Edge.
Yeah.
And you were speaking about how the Jamaican government is not getting it right in terms of the crime and violence. And perhaps they should assess some of the countries which were in
like Rwanda,
in a worse situation, and now they are doing better.
Like Rwanda.
Yeah, right. I went down there in May.
In Rwanda.
Yeah. I took a trip down there in May.
Okay.
Yeah, this May.
Yeah.
Yeah, and believe you me, Muta is a beautiful country.
Yeah.
You'd never believe. You'd almost feel say a first world country.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and peaceful and secure.
Transform itself, man.
May I tell you, Muta, they have a large amount of soldier recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like from 3 o'clock in the evening,
mm-hmm.
you have soldiers almost every 5 minutes you walk, you see one soldier. That's like from 3 until the next morning, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just beauty. It's a gem of beauty. And it's clean. It's the cleanest country in Africa. One of the cleanest country in Africa.
Well, I try to tell them from I start, it's called stepping years program, I tell them, say, must go and visit some countries was in worse off than them. And one of the countries where I always mention Rwanda.
Yeah, man, sleeping needs to go down there and really take it out for himself.
Yeah.
Believe you me, it's really nice. And I like what they are doing and everything. And it's clean. The country is clean. Yeah. You won't find one piece of paper on the ground.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go. And the street lights, right now it's like it's a daylight.
Yeah. Love street light.
Proper road, proper
light.
street light, proper. Man, it's a beauty. I didn't want to live there. I spent about a week and I didn't want to live there.
Mm.
Yeah, man. But, you know.
Yeah, man. Give thanks.
Yeah, man. But it all boils down, you know, to the minds of the people, you know.
Yes.
Motor. If the minds of the people, of the Jamaican people mindset don't change, it not gonna make sense. The Jamaican government can buy more car and more gadgets.
To buy more car.
It not gonna make no sense.
Them trying to buy car.
Yeah, but it not gonna make no sense. If the mind of people not change, it not gonna make no sense.
One of the reasons why
Rwandan people, you know, made up their mind, you know.
Of course.
Made up their mind to transform the country. You know. That's why it is way that's what it is now.
And one of the reasons why not going to work them buying car that don't have IRFM radio in it.
All that too. All that too.
The policeman they can't sit down at night and listen to Mutawaroka. Them companies car them buy that don't have no IRFM in it. Joke how can you have a police car with no IRFM?
That's true. I was telling my friend, you know, you know, me just show them at the clip of how the road stay down there.
Them can't believe it's Africa, don't they?
Them can't believe it's Africa. Them must US me stop on them.
Yeah, man, I show some people, Cape Town, man, and Johannesburg, man, and people that want left for New York. Last Angeles, me I show them.
Right. Right, but no, that like for me to one of them there still, you know?
Yeah, all right, sir.
Yeah. All right. Keep up the good.
Yeah, man,
I always have listened to your program, especially Stepping Razor.
Yes, sir. Give thanks.
Never miss.
Yes, the Virgin say him have Rwandan blood in him. Eh? Yes. She said she have, sorry. have Rwandan blood in him. Believe you me. Okay, listen to this.
Tyler Perry gives us the analogy of 3 types of people. The first type he talks about is leaf people, the second, branch people, and the third, root people. According to Mr. Perry, some people come into your life and they are like leaves on a tree. They are only there for a season. You can't depend on them or count on them because they are weak and only there to give you shade. Like leaves, they are there to take what they need. And as soon as it gets cold or a wind blows in your life, they're gone. You can't be angry at them. It's just who they are. The second type of people, branch people. There are some people who come into your life and they're like branches on a tree. They are stronger than leaves, but you have to be careful with them. They will stick around through most season, but if you go through a storm or 2 in your life, it's possible that you can lose them. Most times, they break away when it's tough. Although they are stronger than leaves, you have to test them out before you run out there and put all your weight on them. In most cases, they can't handle too much weight. But again, you can't be mad with them. It's just who they are. The final type of people are root people. If you can find some people in your life who are like roots of a tree, then you have found something special. Like roots of a tree, they are hard to find because they are not trying to be seen. Their only job is to hold you up and help you live a strong and healthy life. If you thrive, they're happy for you. They're still low-key and don't let the world know that they are there. And if you go for an awful storm, they will hold you up. Their job is to hold you up, come what may, to nourish you, feed you and water you. Just like a tree has many limbs and many leaves, there are few roots. Look at your own life. How many leaves, branches and roots do you have? And what are you in other people's lives? You may want to call them today or send them a message just to thank them for being roots in your life.
Instrument here behind there is called a Kora, K-O-R-A. It's a 21 strings upon it, and it played in the vertical position like how you play the upright bass. The thing is that have a big board, we would have called calabash, big calabash on the bottom. And the strings them go up like a guitar, but it have 21 string on it. May I tell you, you want to sit down and listen to a band with like 3 dozen, 4 dozen kora player, pure kora. May I tell you, man, that's the sweetest thing, man. You hear them play this instrument, man. Or, I mean, it's one of the instruments we never come across the Atlantic. Yes, from Africa. The kora. Sweet instrument. Sweet. Gambia is the main country where you hear them play this thing. Gambia. Sweet, eclectic sound of the cutting edge, man. Very eclectic. Dale?
Yeah.
Blessed, man.
Yeah. First time, Kyle. Blessed.
Blessed, man.
You hear me?
Yeah, man. May I hear you, man?
Oh, yeah. First time, Kyle. Ganja.
Okay.
Well, big up the bed, you know, I listen to, you know, I listen from in the United States, too.
Okay, well.
He really inspired me for Kyle, you know?
Okay, where name?
They are listening to, eh?
Where name?
Live up.
Okay.
Yeah, live up, yeah. Give me 2 questions for you, you know. Big up Duke, too, because although I listen right now, I listen back tomorrow again for Duke, you know, so what you eat on it, you know?
Yeah, man.
So, well, yes, I'm giving 2 questions for you, it's a reminder, I'm more to remind him for reminders. He said, the Kid part 2. If you know, you do it for Twitter, you know? More of that.
One thing, I don't know, part 2, nothing. Oh, it up, I don't know, so it up there.
It's a part 1 there up there, man. A part 2 marks for now.
Yeah, but when I say now, them think there was cassette days, you know. Search for that now, I find somebody who up to date with it.
Yeah, when I say the prisoner, when you go to the prison, you see him with impersonate the police.
Yeah.
And you're starting in the gun and things. You must say, if no man going to come out, I want to interview, you know. You must say, remind me, say, you have no interview to get
done. That's one of the first big interview we did up on the program, yeah. Yeah, man. That's in the 90s. In the 90s,
I don't know how we not hear that. Yeah, man, we go by all means to get our number for call, because we love the knowledge and why we know, say, the way good, you make the eye, myself, I talk myself, and I can talk to my friend too. We love you, and it come from me to the you know?
Alright,
we love you. Yeah, you know, put no cream in my eye, like, we love you, we love yourself, and that come from you, the teacher.
Alright.
Yeah, so when I listen to tape, I think you couldn't play back through the Christmas season now to go Santa Claus. You want to play back again.
Alright, sir, yes, definitely.
Yeah, be want to play back in the season. Yeah, man, I be there for all the time, you know?
Yeah, man, give time.
I will listen to this morning from Duke again, your voice. I said,
this
time, to go by all means for listening, because I'm bound to link with listening time. I don't know where them get it, but them have it from here, I will sign it.
Yeah.
Night set and night to skate for get it, you know?
Alright.
You can listen it live and still come back from Duke. Repeat that already still, but yeah.
Yeah, man, give time.
Do that, man.
I did.
Give thanks.
You know, so it's in a hotel room. And I Spain a record that tune there. I think I did tell Matrix last week. In a hotel room in a Spain, we record that tune there. Trust me. Okay. Wait, by the way, I have to remind the people them, you know. We're back at West Street again this Sunday, you know. Yes. 5 are young. We will be there this Sunday. And you know, so when we are playing down there, so 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, from Mentos, reggae, rock steady, soul, funky, disco, everything. And that's that. We're not partial. Music, we play music from it, really elevate. We play it and make it dance fully. Yes, so we will be back there. A long time, about 2 years now, we take a stop. Maybe, yeah, about 2 years we take a stop. 5 are young. This Sunday, we will be there again. That is down at West Street, right now the heart of Kingston. Here goes. Listen to this. On Monday, a 709 carat diamond sold for $6.5 million at an auction in New York City hosted by Rappaport Group, a diamond trade and auction house. The buyer was Lawrence Graff of Gruff Diamonds, a top buyer of precious stones. Officials say he knowingly overbid for what has been called the peace diamond because of the symbolism behind the stone. It was found by villagers in Cariado earlier this year. The village has no electricity, running water, school, or a hospital. Listen to you hear that? This is a place in Sierra Leone. Remember, them do a movie named Blood Diamond. This is a diamond-rich country, you know. And a diamond where a man bid for $6.5 million US was found in a place where there's no electricity, no running water, school, or a hospital. Instead of selling the diamond on the black market or smuggling it out of the country, the villagers decided to turn it over to the government. The government then put it up for a public auction and said the majority of proceeds will go to social services in villages ravaged by war. So we're going to see what happened there. So the people them turn over the diamond to the government, and the government is now promising them social services in villages ravaged by war. The 5 villagers the 5 villagers who found the diamond will split a little over $1 million. Another $1 million will go to the fund to help other poor villages. The rest to other social programs through the government. It's very important as a nation that the proceeds complement the government efforts to provide social services to the people, said Abu Delea Baraja, spokesperson for Sierra Leone President Ernest Bal Korama. Sir. Sierra Leone has a long and bloody relationship with diamonds, as depicted in the Hollywood movie Blood Diamond. An 11-year civil war fought partially over the riches from diamonds, killed more than 40,000 people. Sierra Leone, you know, a whole heap of Jamaicans that go back to Sierra Leone. Yes, it's called Freeport. They have a village there. A whole heap of Jamaicans that go back there. But yes, a village where have no running water, no electricity. The people them find a diamond with value $6.5 million. Well, we just said that was split, and you say one will get $1 million and the other get $1 million, and the government get the rest to do what they want to do with it. Yes, we have the world. Prime Minister Holness, you know the people them have hate a wrong man. Believe you me, a president who are ethnically cleanse Dominican Republic of Haitian. You give him an award, man. And no matter what the award is for, that man should never come here and get an award for nothing, considering what him doing to the Haitian people there. Look upon the Cuban them they are Miami, you'd have to say most Cuban look that way there. Most Cuban look like look like Jamaican black people. Yes, most Cuban don't look like them where to run go. And Miami, they say them a look refuge from Castro. Most Cuban, black, and music, with upon an eclectic vibes in the night, yeah. I believe you me. A long time I don't play the music, I know, from cutting edge, you know, from in the late 90s, we used to play them regular. Yes, we kind of, yes, since we have all these programs going on now, we can just do something different in the night, yeah, instead of play the same tune them we were playing at the day. Them tune you carry around the world, the black world. You understand? Yes, take into the world of black music. Here goes. So I say give thanks for the moment, give thanks for the time. You know, so we will be back here a little more from 2 to 5:45 with the stepping razor, the art of war. We want to give thanks for Petite. We call her Petite. She just little and petite and cute. I think I'm the youngest. I got all the youngest person I work at, except for me. Outside of me, she almost the youngest person I work at. Give thanks, Sanjay. We're gone long time. Yes. Vita, me hungry. Me I tell you, man, you're a savior. Trust me. If I go to heaven and you're not there, I'm going to leave. Me I tell you that. Okay. So you want to we will go on and play this tune here. You know, so most of the tunes we will play from Night Africa. I will mix in some music from the Caribbean, like Spanish speaking and well them call it, I could say Latin speaking countries. Most of them we will play. We are going to go forward in Africa and play this one here.